On a gray morning outside the imposing Happy House facility, Han's parents stood in silent detachment, their presence marked only by the financial support they provided rather than any warmth or involvement. On a day marked by solemn intent, two hands clasped in a firm handshake, signaling the alliance between renowned institutions in Seoul and the House of Life in Daejeon. As the weight of this alliance lingered in the air, a confident man in a suit stepped into the shadows, revealed as Choi Il-ho, the very person who had delivered the crucial donations to both places. A man called Father is addressed by Han and tells him that it's been a while. Inside a sleek, dimly lit office, Father greeted Han Ishin with a cautious tone as the newcomer stepped quietly into the room, tension shimmering in the air. On a quiet afternoon, sunlight filtered across a table set with coffee and cookies as Han, newly arrived from Busan, exchanged gentle greetings. Father's reflective gaze steady as he explained with gentle hand gestures that many concerns had arisen after the incident. Father reflected on recent hardships, gently expressing gratitude for Han Jin-SSI's support and sharing his hope that the listener, too, had managed to endure the difficult times. In a dimly lit office, Han sat bathed in somber shadows, his voice steady as he reflected on the need to endure even as he revealed the grim news of an arson attack at Happy House. In the quiet hush of his thoughts, Han's side profile was etched with regret as he reflected that he had been too consumed with surviving to notice what truly mattered. Father spoke gently to the attentive Han, mentioning that President Choi had recently inquired about his well-being, casting a reflective hush over their conversation. Han's demeanor marked by anxious curiosity, hesitantly inquired if the conversation referred to President Choi Il-ho. Against a shadowed, textured backdrop, Han stood in quiet contemplation, his thoughts turning to the possibility that curiosity might flow between them both. Soft glow from the framed family photograph drew his gaze, and with a tone full of respect, Father acknowledged how Felteka's monthly donations and President Choi's ongoing care since the merger revealed a depth of loyalty that meant everything to them. Father revealed that a month earlier President Choi had inquired about Ishin, and he had only shared that Han was in Busan. The tension lingered as Han, his expression serious and uneasy, admitted that their distant relationship made regular contact unusual. Father regarded his companion with calm curiosity, asking if he planned to remain in the city and receiving a thoughtful affirmation in return. On a quiet, contemplative morning, Father's hands gently cradled a rosary, the cross pendant glinting softly as the father, hopeful yet searching, asked if Han's faith in the Lord had been restored. Han sat with his head bowed, reflecting somberly as he admitted to himself that calling this moment, again, wouldn't be right. Amidst the shadows cast by green and yellow light, his gaze settled on the two statues, a praying woman and a solemn man, as he reflected that he had never truly believed in God, pondering how belief itself could promise eternity. In a shadowed, luminous chamber, a dimly lit figure sat alone beneath immense glowing hands, lost in pensive reflection on the enigmatic beings fashioned only after a life has drawn to its close. As Han gazed pensively out the window, he acknowledged to himself that even while afflicted by a terminal illness and beset by relentless hardships, he still remained grounded in reality. In the heart of a blazing, smoke-filled chaos, Han's silhouette stood firm as defiant energy surged within, and he asserted with unwavering resolve that he had not perished. As the defiant energy lingered in the aftermath of smoke and fire, a hand reached out toward the radiant light, and the thought arose that, at least in this present reality, there was no longer any certainty of having been shaped by a divine creator. Inside the dimly lit room, Han Ishin sat with furrowed brows, his mind weighed down by tense uncertainty as he silently urged himself to stop drifting and accept that fate would unfold as it must. On a quiet afternoon, Han sat alone on the couch, his expression clouded with self-doubt as he admitted he still struggled to feel good enough, quietly hoping that someday he might truly believe in himself. A nervous father explained that Sungtae was currently present and regularly helped the children with their studies, his tone tinged with anxiety as he revealed this to Han. Han called out Sungtae, prompting Sungtae to turn his head in surprise. Responding to the unexpected reunion, Sungtae burst out with surprise and warmth, asking what brought Han here as father observed the moment in quiet silence. In the gentle afternoon light, a smiling father placed a proud hand on Sungtae's bowed head, expressing that he had come simply to pay a visit and, having heard about Sungtae teaching the children, found it genuinely impressive. Sungtae's anxious smile betrayed a hopeful longing as he admitted he would have joined had he known about the visit. Father calmly suggested that Han and Sungtae continue their conversation while politely asking Ishin to return before leaving, to which Han agreed, his voice carrying a quiet reassurance through the tranquil room. Han and Sungtae exchanged curious glances as they watched the father's authoritative figure stride away, with Sungtae expressing his surprise at the sudden departure. In the hush of a tense moment, Sungtae's profile was etched in sharp focus as Han wondered silently why his gaze lingered on the priest with such suspicion. In a brightly lit room, Han stared at Sungtae with a mix of concern and surprise, inwardly questioning whether Sungtae was already showing signs of presbyopia, while Sungtae met the gaze in silent confusion. In the quiet stillness of a playground, the gentle creak of a dog-shaped spring rider hung in the air as Sungtae, voice trembling with uncertainty, nervously suggested to his companion that they take a short walk together. As the two settled onto the swings beside the silent spring rider, Sungtae hesitantly reminisced about how, when they were young, Sungtae used to push him, prompting Han to reassure him with a warm, steady response that he remembered. Han and Sungtae sat side by side on the swings, their conversation turning reflective as Sungtae remarked on Han's former maturity, prompting Sungtae to ask with a mix of confusion and defensiveness if he no longer seemed like an adult now. In a quiet moment charged with awkward reflection, Han nervously explained to Sungtae that earlier, Jaemin had remarked he seemed more like the older brother and questioned why he continued calling Sungtae Hyung, leaving Sungtae quietly curious. Outside beneath a pale sky, Han paused with a hand to his neck, absorbing a new truth as quiet reflection settled over him. In that quiet moment, he offered a gentle compliment, explaining with a hint of nervousness that it must be because Sungtae had grown up so well. Sungtae suddenly shouts Han's name. Sungtae nervously offered to return the kindness once shown to him. In a sunlit hallway, Han, his light brown hair tousled and eyes sparkling with mischief, broke into cheerful laughter, clearly amused by something unexpected and playfully questioning what had just happened. In the gentle afternoon light of a neighborhood playground, Sungtae's cheerful encouragement reached Han, who sat tentatively on the swing, hope flickering in their eyes. Amid a tranquil grove, Han gripped the green bamboo stalks and gazed backward, calm resolve flickering in hopeful eyes. From the edge of the grove, a young man emerged with a radiant smile, and someone nearby marveled with gentle surprise at how much Sungtae had grown as he reached out in a welcoming gesture. In a dimly lit room heavy with silence, Sungtae sat quietly on the edge of a narrow bed, the ache of recent injury and the weight of a paralyzed leg casting a somber shadow over his resigned expression. From across the room, Sungtae stood with his head and cheek bandaged, his gaze distant. Han confessed how deeply the pain had wounded his heart. Han quietly expressed genuine happiness that he always found time to visit the facility. Han's face showed a quiet sense of pride mingling with a trace of bittersweet longing as Han reflected on how much he had grown. Suddenly, the sky seemed to spin as a tense warning was called out to Sungtae, urging him to stop before dizziness overwhelmed the speaker and a startled exclamation revealed an unexpected mistake. As the swing finally stilled, Han, still catching his breath, questioned how Sungtae could be so strong, admitting it had been fun but stammering an apology as Sungtae steadied him with a regretful expression. In the quiet glow of a comforting moment, Sungtae leaned in and told Han sorry. Han assured that there was no need for apologies. Then, as the warmth lingered between them, Sungtae nervously reached out to touch Han's nose, remarking with concern on its redness while Han looked on in startled discomfort. In a tense moment, shadows flickered across the room as Han, startled and vulnerable, was suddenly pulled into an urgent embrace from behind. As Han remained frozen in the unexpected embrace, Sungtae leaned close and whispered with nervous hesitation that he was glad Han had come to Seoul. In a dimly lit room heavy with tension, Han reached out with a trembling hand to gently touch Sungtae's shoulder, softly calling his name in a voice thick with worry. Sungtae, nerves trembling, clung to Han and hesitantly asked if they could visit the detective's office later, admitting a longing to spend more time together. As gentle raindrops began to fall, Sungtae placed a reassuring hand on Han's shoulder and softly remarked that it had started raining, the calm between them deepening into quiet reflection. With the storm intensifying overhead, Han anxiously suggested they head inside, and father, though hesitant, agreed, while a lingering sense of Sungtae's recent neglect hung unspoken between them. On a rain-soaked night outside a dimly lit building, Han and Sungtae walked side by side beneath the falling drops. On a rain-streaked evening, a brooding figure lingered behind a foggy window, his silent presence casting a shroud of suspense over the dimly lit room.